Hello to all. Hi, we are live at Hackcheck Studios. I'm Art Thibert, and I'm going to be inking a brand new page of Chrono Mechanics. And I'm going to finish it up today. I might not finish it up on the stream, but I will finish it up today. So this is a brand new page, and let's keep this ball rolling. So if there's anybody in the chat, please chime in so I know there's somebody out there and I did all this right. I'm a little bit of a boomer, and I still get nervous putting these things together and getting them up. So, yes. So this is page. Let me see what page this is. This is page. This is page 23. Let me show it to you. All right. This is blue lines right now. So you could tell it's kind of loose. It's kind of blue. So yeah. So like I always say, this is a bit interactive. So if you guys have any questions or want to chime in the chat, feel free to do so. And also, I did a live stream with Antonio Bryce yesterday, and so that was cool. We spent about an hour and a half hanging out, talking about comics and stuff and about Chrono Mechanics. So that was fun. So I still don't see anybody in the chat. Let me see. This is making me nervous. It's making me nervous. Can you hear me? I checked the mic. It was on. The camera's on. All right. Well, I'm just going to keep moving forward. And if you guys want to talk, feel free. So here we go. Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, Chrono Mechanics went live on Indiegogo. When was it? Was it Wednesday? So that was a lot of fun. It gets a little nerve-wracking when you launch one of these Indiegogo campaigns, but it makes you feel alive. I feel alive. So you guys are probably all at lunch right now, which is where I should be, but I wanted to get some work done before I ate. So the person I'm inking right now, his name is the Foreman, and he pretty much runs Chrono Incorporated. He's got a little bit of a heart condition. So Skippy right here tries to keep his stress levels down because Skippy's got a good heart. So these are breakdowns from Render Contender, who I miss. We were going to do a hacks chat today, and he's not feeling good. He's feeling a bit under the weather. So I hope he feels better soon. Hey, we got some people in the chat. I feel successful now. So how is everybody? I hope everybody's doing good on this fantastic Sunday. The weather here in SoCal has been amazing. Yeah. So my wife and I have been eating lunch out on the front patio here. We got a nice view of the mountains. So it's nice, and that's probably what we'll do after I spend an hour or so working on this page. So, oh, you guys, thank you so much, man. We have Aaron and we have Trev M808. So how you guys doing? I think we're only like 140 subs away from 2,000. So thanks, you guys, for supporting the channel and getting the word out. And if there's anybody out there that doesn't know the drill, please hit that that thumbs up button. And if you know anybody who likes to watch old comic book veterans put pages together, let them know that I'm here and that I'll razzle and dazzle them with my prowessness, my artistic prowess. So yeah, so I was saying this is the foreman, and so he kind of runs the place with an iron fist, but deep down he's got a heart of gold. But he never lets anybody see that. He's old school. He's old school that way and doesn't want to let anybody know that he has a heart. I've never really given him a backstory, but one of the things, because all the employees of Chrono Incorporated are pulled from different timelines. So even the foreman and things like that, Skippy, everybody that works at the corporate office. And so I kind of have this backstory. I've never written it down for the foreman. So the foreman is, he's middle management. He basically runs the show at Chrono Inc. And so I was thinking that he's like an old school construction guy, like the guys that built the Empire State Building and things like that. Those guys that you see those photos, those old school photos of them on girders and eating their lunch out there and hanging out, and basically no safety harnesses, no nothing, just nerves of steel, driving hot rivets into girders and things like that. So I kind of see him as that before he was recruited by Chrono Incorporated. So kind of an old school, like badass construction guy. So he's pretty much no nonsense. And he likes to run a tight shop. And he doesn't want anybody to get hurt on his watch. But being a chrono mechanic is fairly dangerous. So there are people, like in construction today, that can get hurt really badly or even lose their lives because, we don't think about a lot of that stuff as being dangerous. We take it for granted. But a lot of those things that, construction repair guys are doing is fairly dangerous. Even just working with a power saw can be dangerous. My dad was always, he liked to work with wood. He had a workshop in the backyard, in the garage, and we used to work together a lot. I used to assist him on his little jobs. So he would make furniture and build little things for the house and stuff like that. And so he had this whole woodworking shop in the back of the house in the garage. And so he always taught me to respect the tools because they can hurt you. And he was right. Yeah, they can be pretty dangerous. He did this thing. It might be fairly common, but I've never seen anybody do this. He could take, what are those saws called? They're a jigsaw, the ones that go They just go up and down. They had little forks, and the blade runs up and down, and then you can drag it along, and you can do kind of intricate cuts with it. That's a pretty skinny blade, and I saw him because if you want to cut, like say this is the board right here, this art board is an actual piece of wood, and you want to get like cut this shape out here. What you have to do is you have to cut into the board and then cut around this to take this part out, or you drill a hole and then you jigsaw the shape out. But he wouldn't drill a hole. He would take the saw and just with the blade, he would angle it on the forks, and then he would just kind of move it into the wood, and then he would like drill his own hole right into the wood, and he'd save a lot of time. And he never seemed to have a problem with it, so I always thought it was a pretty cool move. So I used to build a lot of like clubhouses and tree houses and stuff like that. And I made my own little like car, like wooden vehicle at a wagon wheels and stuff like that. It was hard to find metal and things like that, but somehow I found like these metal axles that I could put the tires onto. It was pretty cool. I smashed aluminum cans, and those were my headlights for my car. Like the bottom parts where they kind of hub inside. So I think I cut it. Yeah, I cut it, and then I nailed it into the front of the car, of my little wooden car. And so I was always building stuff and drawing when I was a kid. My dad had a lathe. He made some pretty intricate stuff, like really nice wood furniture and things like that. I remember one time we were working, and I don't know why he had this, but maybe it was to burnish something. I don't know what it was, but he had this torch, and so he had like it was a butane, like most portable, like it's the bottle, and then it has like the torch part on the top, and he was doing something with that thing, and it just ignited. It just caught on fire, and I just remember him kind of freaking out, and he flung it at the workbench. Everything's wood in there, and he flung it over at the workbench, and it caught on fire. And I was just a kid, but I knew enough to, we always had towels and rags and stuff, so I threw them over the fire and got the fire out, because I think my dad was a little bit on fire, so he was busy trying to put himself out. Yeah, so yeah, we had some good times. I just remember that thing just burst into flames, and then he threw it, and I think he was on fire, because I remember his eyebrows and part of his hair were gone after it, and the smell of hair is always, it's a definite odor. And yeah, I put the fire out. I was always proud of myself. I didn't freak out. I got the fire out, because I'm telling you, it was already blazing. It doesn't take much, like dry wood and things like that. And the whole bottle was just on fire. We're lucky that it didn't blow up. Yeah. That would not have been good. So I'm inking pretty small here. I always like the design for the foreman. He's an interesting character. So I think he's probably modeled after my dad a little bit. My dad could be funny, but most of the time he was pretty no nonsense. Definitely old school dad. So I'm inking the elucidator now. And what I like to do, especially when I'm doing finishes, which is what I'm doing over these pencils, is I like to structure everything up first, get all my structured lines in, and then I'll come in with a pencil and I'll put the hatching and the blacks in at that point. So this last panel is Skippy handing the elucidator like these joysticks, or this joystick to basically operate this drone. So they've kind of broken off connection to Team 9.2. They don't know where they're at or what happened. They just kind of disappeared in time. And so the foreman, not to be one to just kick back and wait for things to get fixed, he's taking things into his own hands here with the help of Skippy and the elucidator. And so he's going to pilot this drone. This actually isn't a physical drone in the image. I don't know if you can see it very well. It's this is a virtual drone. Eugene is the virtual elucidator. So he's a computer program. So what he's doing is he's bringing up a kind of like a holographic drone. And the main reason, like, you have to do these kind of artificial things, storytelling wise, to let the readers know that, you know, what a drone is and all that other stuff. Because if this was just normal, they would just go, oh, let's do a drone, and they would just go do it. But in a story like this, you have to introduce the drone and then explain what the drone is and what it needs to be, or what it will be used for. And so that's what this scene is. So then later on, you know, you can see what their plan was and how they're implementing it. I'm really proud of this story. I love these guys. I love these characters. They feel like real people to me. I know them. I understand them. A friend of mine said, I thought this was funny. He said that the Team 9.2 of Sector 7 are all manifestations of you. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, like, Oot is a prehistoric businessman. He's like a real estate guy. And so, you know, you have Hatchback Studios and you run a business. And so, you know, you get you're a bit of a grump at times. So there's that. And then there's Caravaggio, who's a Renaissance artist, inventor. I like to build things and create things and draw. And so that one's pretty obvious. And then there's Zin, which is a little bit of a stretch, but I do like to, he's a child deity and he likes to pontificate and basically spout philosophy. And so he's basically a blowhard, which I can be at times as well. And so then there's Doug, who's the 70s rock star. And so in the 70s, I played music as well. So I didn't think about it at the time, but they pretty much do, you know, cover all my likes and personality traits, which, you know, wasn't I didn't set out to do that, but it ended up happening anyway. And I do remember having a conversation with the great Jack Kirby, and we were talking, and somebody asked him, how do you write good stories and good characters? And he said they have to be real. They have to feel real. He said even if it's, the Silver Surfer, Galactus, and all that other stuff, it has to feel grounded and real. And he said always pull from your life, like situations and people and things and stuff like that, because then those characters will feel real and tangible. So situations, people, you can loosely base stuff on situations. And I used to think, you'd watch these crazy movies and these crazy situations, and then you go, man, that could never happen in real life. And then you start thinking about your life and things that have happened and people that you've known and situations. And then you realize, like, they're probably a little exaggerated, some of these movies, but some of this crazy stuff that's hard to believe does happen. And so I'm not saying that I've time traveled or any of these things in this story, but yeah, there's definitely, I believe those are things that if you're writing a story, that you need to think about. And also, I believe that's the relatable aspects of how people will connect to your work are through those ideas, because they are real. They did happen, or there are people like that and stuff like that. So I think people like authenticity, even if it's a super fantastic story like Chronomechanics is, but where it could be grounded in a strange way. Like one of the working mantras that I have is, it's the mundane meets the super fantastic. So we have just a bunch of knuckle busting, time repairmen that go into the actual galaxy and the cosmos, and they get to see things like timeless space and these other galaxies and these other worlds and these other timelines, and they seem unaffected by it. Like it's just their pain in the ass job. They see planets live and like born and die and all kinds of every timeline imaginable, every type of person, all of these things, and they seem fairly unaffected by it. They just go back home to their families and have barbecues and do normal stuff. Well, on some level, they're not all like family. Really, the only family character is Oot. So he's very domesticated. He's got a wife and kids, and he's kind of a provider type. He's the caveman. So the others really aren't like that. Caravaggio is always struggling to be kind of found out. What do they call it? Discovered. His art and his genius to be discovered. And he doesn't get a lot of accolades in his timeline. And so he has a rival, which is Leonardo da Vinci. I love this part of the story. And Leonardo, he always accuses Leonardo of like stealing his ideas and his inventions and basically his painting techniques. And so he's always looking for some kind of proof, some kind of tangible proof that Da Vinci's doing this, but he never can find it. So everybody thinks he's a little bit paranoid, like like, really, Leonardo, the great Leonardo, is ripping you off? And he's like, yeah, he's ripping me off, man. So he always seems a little loony, and he's always a little grumpy because he never gets the accolades that he feels he deserves. And he is a brilliant talent, and he's loosely based on the real Renaissance painter Caravaggio. So I think it's funny. And if any of you guys are artists out there, you're always like, when am I going to be discovered? When am I going to hit the big time? I'm still waiting to hit the big time. So, yeah, I think it's funny. And so we have like some stories and some ideas that are planned down the line, and I hope we can eventually get to those. But one of them is that Leonardo is actually, like, we finally say, like, he is, oh no, spoiler alert, that Leonardo is actually stealing from him. And that Leonardo has these ninjas. He has, like, they're called the Ninjas, or the ninjas, and they go out and they break into Caravaggio's workshop, his studio, and they steal ideas. So sometimes when Caravaggio comes back after a hard day's work, fixing the big machine that is time, and he'll see, like, his studio ransacked. So they do exist. So I have a story where the Team 9.2 actually do see the Ninjas, or the Ninjas, and so they believe him after all his years. So we almost have Skippy structured up. I'm a little more focused today than a lot of times on these live drawing streams. I try to entertain as much as I can, but I really want to get this book done quickly for you guys and get it out. And for the most part, this book is coming together pretty darn quick. I can show you. Oh, you know what? This is kind of cool. Let me see. Let's move this over here. Here's the layouts for these 2 pages. So I don't know if I showed you these yet. These are what I give to render. And so there's this one here. This is the one I'm working on now. So they're pretty, I mean, it's all there. They're a little loose, but let me see. Actually, I don't know if I put it back in here yet. Let me see. Yeah. So you can see the layout here. And then you can see I inked this the other day on the show. So this is the finished page here. And I believe these are Render's layouts. So these are his breakdowns from my sketches, or layout. These are his breakdowns of my layout, from my layout. And then these are the finishes. So you can see the panels, shapes and things changed a little bit. Some of the drawings a little different. So any way to plus things, any way to enhance, make stuff better, that's what I'm all about. Really, the job isn't done until, the last possible idea is played out. You always have to stay open to the creative process. It takes time. That's the worst aspect of this job, is really that it's all time sensitive. I mean, it's good because most artists had all the time in the world, the books would never or probably never come out. So it's good to answer to people, and it's good to have deadlines. But it's also sometimes, if you have more time, you can pursue ideas that are outside of the box, and that's where innovation happens. You usually don't see in comic books and in a lot of movies as well, you don't see intervention. You don't see new stuff and exciting things happen on a monthly grind. Like if you're doing a monthly book, you usually don't see anything that's groundbreaking because you're so busy just trying to get the job done. And so you always fall back on your training. You always fall back on what you know. And so those are your go-to to get the book done. But if you're doing something like Chrono or Black and White or whatever, this style is outside the box. I don't have any template for this. I'm making this up as I go. And so you have to kind of, be in the right headspace. It takes a little bit of time to develop it because there's nothing I can reference. There's nothing I can go to. It's all, out of my head. So anything new that's created has to be created within these dictated guidelines creatively. So it's a matter of always trying to adhere to the restrictions, for the lack of a better term, to stay in those restrictions. Because if you vary, then it's not the style anymore. It's something else. So you always have to be aware of what you're doing. And I can't go into autopilot, because if I go into autopilot for speed, because that's my training, then it's not going to look like chrono mechanics anymore. So there is a mindset there. It's a little challenging because there's styles that are just innately in me, like mainstream, that I can do a lot faster. But chrono isn't one of those. So I just have to put in more hours to get this stuff done, because it doesn't, it's not something like the Marvel and DC that I can just put pressure on myself to get it done. It's a little bit different. But quite frankly, I really like it. I like doing things outside of the norm and the box. And I hope you guys support Chrono Mechanics, because you're not going to get product like this from Marvel and DC. You're just not. They just, it takes time to develop, and this is a real personal take on a story and characters, and it's just not going to happen in a place like that because they don't have time for it. They're busy putting out their IPs. So a lot of these creator-owned books, these Indiegogo and Comicsgate books, they're very unique, one-of-a-kind books, and they take a little bit of more time and care to be created than your average comic book. It sounds like I'm making excuses to get things done quick, or slower, or to take more time, but it's really not the case, because the way I always looked at things when I got crazy deadlines, I really looked at it this way from my editor. Like if they went, oh, well, a week has been taken off the schedule, initially my knee jerk would be like, oh crap, this really sucks. But then what I'd always try to do is frame it up, once I pull back from the knee jerk, like, oh man, this sucks, is that if I could get it done a week earlier, then I get paid more money, because you get paid per job in comic books. You don't get paid like by the hour. So it's pointless to try to calculate how much money you're making, and also just make you grumpy and angry because you'd realize how much money you're not making if you try to put an hourly to it. But if you're fast and you can get the job done quickly, then it becomes cost effective. So like, let's just say, go back to what I was saying, like they give you 4 weeks to do a book. You have 4 weeks to do the book, but then they go, oh, well, now you only have 3 weeks to do the book because of whatever happened. So you could either give up pages, which I never do because I hate that, because it costs me money. And so I just dig down and get the book done in that new time frame. And so then what I do to try to deal with, I guess the anger or whatever of having to do something quicker is I just say, thank you, man, because now I get paid more money because I did this job in less time. So that's how comic book people make their money. They're all working freelance. So the faster you can get a job done, the more money you make. So usually you don't get paid more money per job. Like you can't negotiate like from this job to that job, I want more money. It usually just comes out of that you can work faster. So that's why, like when I was coming up the ranks, and I remember hanging out with Rob Liefeld and even Todd McFarlane, they had this great mindset because there were 2 people in the comics industry that did really, really well that we all looked up to. And it was John Byrne and it was Ron Lim, because those guys could do multiple projects a month. And if you could do multiple projects, or if you could wear many hats on the project, like if you could pencil, ink, and write, then all of a sudden you get paid more money per month. So really the only way you can make more money in the comics industry is to do more work. I mean, you could try to negotiate and get a killer page rate, but that's really hard. You can't really depend on that because there's very few people that can get that. I was somewhere in between. Like I could get a lot of work done, but also I got paid a lot. So that was really good. I'm very fortunate that way, but I worked really hard to get there as well. So what Rob and Todd did is they used those guys as their templates. And I remember talking to Rob, and Rob would like, you take too long on stuff. You got to work faster. It doesn't really, that's what he'd say. He said, the quality doesn't matter as much as style. So if you have a good style, like an interesting style and a style that you could work fast in, then that's the sweet spot. Because then you have a style that you can work really fast in that people like, you can get work done, and then you can do multiple projects or multiple books every month. And that's how you make a living, I was a little bit more of an artist, I guess. I don't want to sound like I was, hoity-toity or anything like that, but I was still going to school that time, and I think I still was thinking I was going to be an illustrator, when I was doing comics and hanging out with Rob and Jim Valentino and those guys. So I was still going to school, and I was still doing, realistic drawings and things like that, while Rob was honing, the comic book look and all that stuff. And I guess coming up with a formula of how to do things, get a good look and how to do things quickly. And my gosh, man, that guy, at some point, it was like day and night. He just took off and was like a meteor. And not that I had a crappy career or anything, but that guy just kind of, his early philosophy and his early ideas, like his mission statement was a really good one. And he kept moving forward with that mission statement, that idea, and then just honed it and kept building off of it. And it just wasn't, you kind of have to do what is in your personality or your wheelhouse to do. And so getting a formula and working like a formulaic way of working like that, I just didn't have a lot of interest in it at the time. Years later, the longer you work in the industry, you start seeing the wisdom, and that's one good thing about in the old days, used to have a run on a book where you could go a year or 2 or 3 years working on the same book with the same artists and writers. And the reason that was good is because you could find a stride and you could be more formulaic, and you could get a style down, and then you could get things done quickly. And you just don't have that anymore, so like as an inker, the last couple of years, you would be changing up your style every third month or fourth month. You never had a long run, so you would just have to learn a brand new style at the drop of a hat. So it's like, oh, well, you're going to be inking this guy now. Oh, okay. So then you have to learn that whole, everything that guy is and what he's about, relatively quick, because there's just no time. And so I've always been, even when I'm not working, I'm studying styles and seeing what everybody's doing in the industry. And it does help, because then if you're an inker and you plug into like this guy and he's completely different than the other guy that you were working on in the past, since you've been paying attention, you already kind of understand that. Or the way I like to look at it is there's different schools of art. So there's kind of like, there's the, Neil Adams school. There's the, Todd McFarlane school. There's the Kevin Nolan school. Now there's a Jim Lee school of doing things. So you can learn from those guys, and there's like, let's just say, to kind of hone what I'm trying to say, is like say you have a Kevin Nolan style, and that's like, let's just say he is the unique, like he's the pioneer, even though he's not. Like he took a lot of influences from different places too, but let's just say use him as a starting place. But then you can see offshoots of his style. So one of the big guys that uses his philosophies and his style, believe it or not, is Dave Finch. So Dave Finch is from that school, and Dave Finch is also from Simon. He's like Simon Bisley meets Kevin Nolan, and specifically Kevin Nolan inking Dan Jurgens on Superman Aliens, those graphic novels. And so then you start seeing like, oh, that he's from that school. And so then if you've been kind of studying, like, oh, Kevin Nolan or, Simon Bisley, then when you get that assignment, you kind of identify, you can see where that guy's roots are. You can see the DNA of the work. And then you can just kind of plug into that, because you've already studied it. So you already understand it on some level, even though it deviates from it. It's its own thing, but you can still kind of relate to it. You understand it. And so that's how I've always been. Sometimes I wish that I had one style that I work, because then I could hone it, and then I could just get really good at it and just perfect it. But then, there's a side of me that says, yeah, but there's a lot of guys that are like that now can't get work because they never redefine themselves. They never shake it up. They never change. They're kind of doing the same thing that they've been doing for 20 or 30 years. And so I think people, trends change, styles change, and then these guys are left out, you know, in the wind, I guess. I don't know the word for it. And I never wanted to be that guy. I always want to stay relevant. I always want to still do interesting comic books. I always want to keep, entertaining people with something new. And so I think my route took longer. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I still kind of went up the ranks pretty quick. So it's not like I put a ton of time in before I made it big. I made it pretty big within the first year. I was inking, doing finishes on Adventures of Superman and penciling, like maxi series for DC Comics. So yeah, I was very fortunate there. But I think you know what I'm trying to say. I think it was more like I felt that way versus that was the reality. I felt maybe if I had more of a set style or whatever, I could formalize and then get things done quicker, and that maybe that's the way to do it. But I just was never really wired too much like that. So, yeah, I took the longer route, the route that took longer. But I think ultimately, in the long run, it was a better choice, especially for me. So I should go to the chat. I wanted to ink Skippy's neck. That joystick's going to be a joy. Let me find my glasses here. We got Comic Book Bob. I'm just glancing real quick. 5% gaming. You know what? I think I don't remember seeing your name in here. So welcome. Welcome, 5%. Ooh, hey, Mark C. Thank you for $5. Let's highlight you here. I mean, I should have went all the way to the top, but I'm going backwards, just like everything else I do. So from Mark C., why do I psychologically have less trouble drawing a bordered page over a full bleed page? I don't know. Maybe you can see the composition more clearly. Because it actually has a drawn border, and versus the end of the page. I don't know. Not a lot of people draw. Even when you're a kid, you don't really draw to the end of the page. So, Art, I think you got the Chrono Mechanics link wrong on this video. Oh, darn. I wish I knew how to give. I got to look into it to find a way to mod some of you guys so you can put links in the chat. That's my next thing. I know how to do it on YouTube, but I'm going through StreamYard, and I'm not really sure how to do it. Somebody said, did they say you right-click? No. You click on it, and then nah, that's not working. Yeah, I'm experimenting. It's not a good time to experiment while you're live. We have Mighty Geek Studios. Yeah. Time is a major corporation. It is a major corporation, Chrono Inc. We have Jeremy Kelly. How are you, man? How are you guys doing on this Sunday? I really like the style you're using for this book. Thank you, man. It's one of those things, man. You try things and you don't know if people are going to like it or not. Because the more different and unique things are, it usually takes people a little bit longer to figure out if they like it or not. Usually if it's formulaic and it fits the pattern of something else, then people can go, oh yeah, I like that. And sometimes they don't even know why, but it could be like something else. And if you think about Hollywood and a lot of things that are being created right now, a lot of those are like, I remember talking to my agent, he said, your first two acts are like the first two acts of any other movie, and then you switch it up in the third act. And then he said, and your trailer does the same thing. Your trailer starts like this is a nostalgic trailer, or this is like this other concept that you've loved over the years, and so it feels familiar and it sucks you in, and then you throw a twist in there, so then it feels original. But I remember him telling me this because he was talking to me about chronomechanics, and he was saying you need something to kind of ground it so people can relate to it quickly, something like something else. And I said, I thought what we were supposed to do as creative people, I'm so naive, you guys. I said, I thought as creative people, what we're trying to do is create something that's totally unique and different, something that no one's ever seen before. And he goes, not if you want to make a good living. And so I always took that to heart, but at the same time, I don't really subscribe to it. I don't really care for it. I want to try to create something as different as possible, and then for right or wrong or indifferent, people will accept it or not. So let me see this. Okay, so Wilberforce Wooster, yeah, a link is definitely wrong. Any mods that can at least link it in the chat, that would be great if somebody could do that. I don't know if you can do that without I don't know if I can do that. Doggone it. I could be making it harder on you guys. If you just type it in like Indiegogo chronomechanics, you can see it. Doggone it. Oh, you know what? I can put it in. I don't need you guys. What the heck? Jeez. If I had a brain, I would be dangerous. Let me see if I can get this link. I'll put it in, you guys. Sometimes I'm such a dope. So let me see. You guys let me know if this works. So the link, I just dropped it in the chat. So that's the Chronomechanics Indiegogo page. So if there's anybody who wants to go check it out, it's there. And I will look into the mod stuff. That was so weird. I'm like, hey, man, could you guys do it? I can do it myself. This is all new, man. It's all new. One of these days, I'll have it figured out. Okay, so we have the Art of Read. Cool. How are you, brother? Good to have you in the chat. We have Andrew J. Andrew J's in the house. Oh, man. You're right. The link is wrong. So, yeah, you guys just check. Thank you so much for letting me know, though. So I posted it in the chat. And as we move forward, I'll try to keep reminding myself to do that. So if there's anybody who wants to go out and check Chronomechanics out, please do so. Comic Book Bob, linked and shared. Got to get back to work. Have a good stream, folks. Hey, thank you so much, Comic Book Bob. I appreciate all the support. Have a good day. I don't need your permission. Thanks. I don't know what that's from. Jim Cock. Or Cox. I'm sorry. I'm here, nerds. He's here. Palacio. All right. I have some good friends with that last name. Palacios are good people. Wait a minute. Comic Book Bob's still here. No, he's hoping to bait someone. Oh, just ignore him. Okay. Thank you. Man, you guys are chiming in the chat. It worked. Oh, cool. So, yeah, the link works. Thank you so much. You guys are badass. Shut your mouth. Your brain, where is she today? Oh, Jim. Oh, Jim. At some point, I'll look into figuring out how to give wrenches, but yeah. So we can do that. Okay, I'm going to get back to the work. My main focus is always going to be on getting this book to you guys. I think I'm going to try a different nib here because that one is my fine line nib and I'm inking at a bigger scale. Yeah, this one's much better. Look at the thickness between this one and that. Yes. So, yeah, I'll fix that link in the description after I get done here. You guys are really cool. Thank you so much for the insight on that. So yeah, it's, back on track. It's always harder, I think, to pioneer or to try to do something that's outside the box. It's easier to do something, or I guess the average person will latch on to things quicker when they feel familiar to them. And so I think that's kind of the modern business model with creative stuff like movies and books, is they want it to feel like it's something else. And then, there's a twist. And sometimes there's not even much of a twist. And a lot of times, like, studios will just buy IPs and just, I guess, remake that movie almost identical to the way it was. And I think that's one way of, running your business. But I think fresh, different IPs like Chrono Mechanics and stuff, I think this is pretty hard to connect to anything. As far as the concept, I mean, the closest thing I've had people connect it to is like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So it kind of has that, I guess, British type of humor to it. So it's kind of clever, but it seems like it's nonsense. So yeah, a thicker nib here is definitely helping out. Because it's one thing when you're inking, you have to think scale. So Skippy here is way bigger scale than he is here. So the line weights that I put on this panel, it should be thicker than, I don't want to put my hand in wet ink because I'm putting more ink down and I can't see where the wet ink is. So you know what? I'm just going to jump to another panel. That's why I jump around too, is because this way I don't have to worry if the ink is wet there. So I'm going to go and I'm going to ink big scale stuff since I have this nib already working. So this is the elucidator's hands, and he's summoning, or he's conjuring. Ooh, he's conjuring. He's a mad wizard up a drone, and you'll find out later how the foreman uses the drone to try to help out the mechanics. Because if you haven't noticed, in the Indiegogo, I show a ship crash. So the story starts off with a death and a destroyed time ship. So our mechanics are up the proverbial time creek without a paddle. Or time stream, I should say. The proverbial time stream without a paddle. That sounds better. So you can kind of see this nib is more, it's been worn down a little bit, so it doesn't have as much of a tip to it, so it gives a thicker line. And I'm just going to show you guys something, and poor Render does it a lot. See the thumb and this drone line right here? Can you see that? That's what we call a tangent. So there's a way around this, and I could do it as an ink. Like sometimes if you build the line out, you can remedy the tangent. And if you guys don't know what a tangent is, it's when two lines intersect. I hope you can see this because it is blue line. So the end of his thumb goes right on the end of this drone here. So what you can do, an inker technique is, I'm going to kind of redraw this thumb a little bit too, but if you kind of move the shape past it, you don't have to do this with a pencil. I usually can do it with ink, but I wanted to kind of redraw it a little bit. And then when I ink this long line here, I'll move it out this way a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm overlapping, I'm moving this out and then I'm moving the thumb in. So then I'm creating like a stair step effect versus something that's all on the same line. And the reason in artwork that's not good is because it makes it harder to see shapes. So one of the things as an inker and as a storyteller, we want the reader to identify these things as quickly as possible. And we don't want you to spend too much time on the object to try to figure it out. Like, we want you to identify it relatively quick and then move on. So clarity is a major, major part of what we do so that you can identify it and then move on through the story. I mean, if you want to come back in and then like scrutinize the art, you know, for enjoyment, then that's fine. But as far as just the main reading experience, that's why tangents are kind of a no-no. And Render is, he's still kind of learning the chops. He's learning his chops. So, I mean, even seasoned professionals still will have a tangent or two in their work. And like I said, as a inker, you can kind of move things slightly one way or the other to remedy the tangent problem. Yeah, we all do it. And John Malin hates tangents. He's the tangent police. Yeah, I think it's part of training your eye as an artist to see those things and to you know, change them when you can. So I'm going to go back to Skippy, put my glasses on real quick, see what's going on. What's happening? Comic Book Bob has left us? I love British humor. Yeah, like Monty Python and stuff. Those guys are knuckleheads, man. I love that stuff. I even love that Benny Hill show. That shows you how old I am. Render is not, he's kind of helping out on some pages. So he's not penciling the whole book. I think it's about 19 pages, 15 to 19 pages that he's going to help out on out of the 60 pages. We're launching it as a 48 page right now. Chrono Mechanics is 48 pages, but it's really written and laid out as a 60 page story. But the problem is having the money to pay for, you know, 12 extra pages of coloring and 12 extra pages of penciling and printing and all those other things. And that's why we put them in the Chrono Indiegogo campaign as stretch goals. So, excuse me, so we could kind of generate a couple extra bucks so I can pass their way to basically pay for those extra 12 pages. Oh, shoot, I clicked on the wrong one. Oh, I clicked on the wrong one. It's moving. Sometimes it's hard to click on these things because the chat's moving, you know, like when it's moving quickly. Yes, yes. I love that stuff. You know what? I should watch that. I haven't watched any of that in a long, long time. Oh, oh yeah. Oh man, Marvin the Paranoid Android died. What? What does that mean? Oh, the actor that played it in the movies. Is that what you're talking about? I thought like, what? Who? It's that guy like Snape or whatever. What's that actor's name? He was in the first Die Hard. He was good. He was great. First Die Hard. Um, yeah. I love Hitchhiker's Guide. And who was it? I was at a pitch meeting or something, and he's like, yeah, I read your pitch and I read your comic. He said, do you like Hitchhiker's Guide? And to be honest, when I was younger, I I read the first book, and then a few years later, I would listen to, I think it was the BBC radio shows, and the BBC radio show of Hitchhiker's Guide is is almost better than the book. I hate to say it. It actually, the radio show is better than any of the incarnations. I believe it's better than any of the novels, and it's definitely better than the movie. The movie was, oh my gosh. If maybe the Monty Python guys put that movie together and made it, maybe it could have felt like the tone of the novel and the BBC radio show. But I don't know. I liked it. I liked the movie, but it didn't feel. It was weird, but it didn't feel as weird as and quirky as I think it should have. The first side. I know. I think that's why some of us actually watched that show too, because there was always like the pretty ladies in that show, and he would chase them as like a dirty old man. So, oh yeah, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books are awesome. Remember to bring your towel, you guys. Um, and thanks for all the fish. One of the few books that made me laugh out loud. Yeah, there's some crazy stuff in that. And you know what? I think that humor is needed. I really do. Just that nonsensical, silly stuff that, you know, you have to kind of put your brain in neutral and just enjoy it for what it is. Try not to think too much about it and just have a good time. I like that kind of nonsensical stuff. And I don't mean to seem like I'm like, because it sounds like an insult. I don't mean it that way. That stuff's really clever too. I mean, there's a lot of analogies and different stuff going on in those books. So he's making parallels with human behavior, and there's all kinds of stuff going on there. But it's definitely in a way that you don't see it, and you don't, like commentary stuff on life that you don't really see, and you don't really understand it on a conscious level or while you're reading it. And I like that. I'm not saying that black and white chrono mechanics is deep like that, but it's definitely just kind of good fun and just kind of enjoy the ride type of stuff. A lot of silly humor and stuff. So I'm glad you guys like Hitchhiker's Guide, because it's weird, because it at the time that I was coming up with this, it didn't dawn on me that that's kind of where some of these ideas were coming from, or at least like the tone maybe, until it was brought to my attention. I'm glad they tried to make the movie, but I don't know. How do you guys feel about the Marvin, the androids like design? Like I don't know. I still don't know how I feel about it. It was definitely challenging. That enormous head. It almost felt like Darth Helmet or Dark Helmet or whatever from Spaceballs. Like just an enormous cranium. That dude's got a ginormous cranium. Yeah, but I must have been channeling that stuff, and I wasn't really aware of it. And also, I've always liked Mobius's airtight garage because it's just kind of weird and a lot of non sequiturs and odd stuff that happens, and I like that too. So I think this is kind of a combination of a lot of those things. And I wasn't conscious of it, so it wasn't like like a conscious decision to make it like this to make money or whatever. Um, like Hollywood does. I definitely like being broke. No, I don't. Success is good. Bring it on. Bring it on, man. So I think I'm going to finish up structuring little Skippy here. And then I'm going to take my lovely wife out and get a bite to eat. She's been very, very patient lately. I've been a little on edge. A little on edge these days. Let's bring that over the belt buckle since it's a little bit of a down shot. I think it'll help sell that you're looking down versus the buckle overlapping like it is here. I'm getting into the wet ink. I'm going to go up here again. You take a detour. Yeah, and I know it's probably a little hard to watch because I spin the page a lot, but I appreciate you guys hanging out through all the spinning. One thing about inking is you have to get the page kind of in the right position. Some people can just kind of ink it, by looking straight at it. I never really could. So I kind of need to turn the page a lot to get my hand in the right position. All right, so let's get back on Skippy. My ink should be dry now. It takes a little longer because I'm putting down some thicker lines, so it takes a little longer for the ink to dry. So that's actually the only thing that really slows me down as far as ink. There's two things: not being sure of what you're looking at, and like if there's a tangent and there's different things like that. So you have to think a little bit more before you put the line down, and just the ink drying. Pelican dries pretty quick. There's is it the Konar, the Rapidograph ink? That stuff takes a lot longer. Like anything with acrylic in it, I believe it takes longer to dry. So I used to mix like acrylic ink in with my Pelican and stuff like that, but I don't really have the time to wait for ink to dry as much anymore. I just kind of want to move fast. And the only reason I was really using that ink is because it looks really good when you go to resell a page. Like the original pages look pretty killer with that shiny acrylic ink on it. Yeah, the originals look really cool. And I think it was the time, where, you're working on like pretty major talent and those pages go for a lot of money. Art Adams, Jim Lee, those things. So on some level, you're inking for the original. And I remember actually talking to Scott Williams, and we were just talking about how little we like to use like the whiteout pen. And the reason, there's one, as an inker, there's a sense of pride, right? So if you had, this is what a correction, this is a bad correction. I don't like these things, but I'm going to show it to you because I don't have the good ones. I don't know what they're called, but they're like the short little like flat blue ones. Those are better. These big ones, these are actually pretty bad. This is all I have right now though. So if you make a mistake, then you can just kind of draw. It's like old whiteout, like typing whiteout, and you just kind of go over your spot, and then you can ink over this. But this is not as good to ink over, and I think it flakes a little bit too. So we were kind of almost like just so the originals look cool, and also so other artists, when they see the originals, they don't go, oh, he made a mistake, or he made, X amount of mistakes. So sometimes when you see whiteout, a lot of whiteout, you go, oh, he was having a hard time here with the line and stuff like that. So we both kind of came to the realization at the same time. So it was one of those funny conversations where you're like, hey, he'd go, Art, you don't use a lot of whiteout on your page. And I go, yeah, neither do you. And then we're just like, oh, yeah, that's for resale. So, yeah, there's those kind of integrity things where you don't want people to see that you made a mistake, and also you want the page to be as nice looking as you can make it. So people that are buying the page, the original, will, like, 'cause sometimes, man, people hang this, like I got artwork on my walls. People hang these things up on their walls, man. That's really flattering. So you want to make these originals as kick-ass as possible, so that's kind of where that came from. So I usually will only use whiteout if, like, for effects. I try not to use it. I try not to make any mistakes. What was it that Jack Kirby says? Like, he's saying, like, hey, you don't really use an eraser. And he says, well, the reason I don't use erasers is because they don't pay me to erase. They pay me to draw. And I always like that. Like, you don't pay you to make mistakes. They pay you to draw. So, all this stuff, like I was talking about early on, it's all time sensitive. So you don't really get paid a lot per job, like per drawing or per page. You get a set rate. And then what you have to do is you have to become fast at your craft, and you have to work quickly, because the faster you can work, the more money you can make. So that was always the bottom line. So there are some people that are breaking into business, and they want to do the best job possible, and they don't realize that they're not going to make more money that way. They just kind of have to do a lot of pages to make the money up, because there's not, in mainstream comics, like these Indiegogo products or projects, there you can do really, really well for a single book, but the mainstream just doesn't really work like that if you're working for Marvel or DC. So you really have to become very proficient at your craft and learn how to work fast. And the faster you can work, the better money you can make. And like I said, there's the guys that innovate in comics, but they're usually not the monthly guys, sadly, because those guys are busy putting out your books. So there's really I think there's two camps really in comics. There's the guys that are doing like innovating stuff, and then there's the guys that are doing like monthly books. Like they pride themselves on getting monthly product to you. Like Dan Jurgens he's kind of one of those like storyteller workhorses. It's important for him to get you a story. He's a storyteller. He's not like a groundbreaking, penciler. And the reason Dan works with a lot of different inkers is because he's a smart guy, and he'll just get an inker on the project that will give him a certain look. So the innovations come from usually, the inker that's working over Dan, not so much Dan himself, because he'll give you kind of breakdowns, because he usually works with finishers. He'll give you breakdowns, and then you can kind of come in there and give it a look. And I think that's one way of doing things, and it really works out for Dan, because then Dan can get into a story relatively quick as far as writing it, and then doing breakdowns, like pencil breakdowns. And I think it really works for him. Mark Bagley is another guy that is he's a monthly workhorse type guy, and he prides himself on getting books done and out on a regular basis. And that's a type, and I don't want to seem like I'm framing this up as good or bad. I think it's all just how you want to conduct your career. What you want to be known for. I've kind of done both, and I've always tried to innovate while doing monthly work, but it's kind of hard. But I think if you're conscious of it and you try, you can do it. And was always my thing. But a lot of the stuff that you look at, like a Mike Mignola or whatever, he's not a monthly guy. Or Travis Charest, like he's not a monthly guy. So they kind of try things, and they work in their sketchbook, and they come up with different ideas and approaches, and they're looking at different influences, kind of like Chrono Mechanics, looking at different influences, looking at the French guys, the Mobius and those types, and trying to bring some of those influences in to the mainstream, American comic books. So, that's kind of the two camps. But usually the innovator isn't the monthly guy. The monthly guy is the guy that will take that person that somewhat innovates, and then they'll polish the crap out of it, and then they'll kind of make it mainstream. Kind of like, you have Travis Charest, and then you have Francis Yu, who I love both their work, but you can kind of see where Francis is getting, the influences from. He's kind of Will meets, Travis. And so, he's polished the line work. He's figured out how to do it quickly. And so he can make a monthly schedule with that type of work, or that type of look, I guess. So, and Chrono kind of has a little bit of the bloopy, liquidy inks to it, so you can kind of see it happening here. I'm actually finding my stride right now. That's why I'm still inking, because I said that I was just going to do Skippy and then that was going to be it. But it's magic time, baby. I really like inking big too. I don't like inking small as much, because I think I like to move the pen and get a lot of bounce and attitude. And it's a little tougher on the smaller stuff because you don't have as much real estate to work with. There's the big nose. This is lip. And you can kind of see the thickness versus that last panel. So you know this guy's in the foreground, and you know that his scale is bigger than these here. And this helps with the storytelling to get that bigger, thicker line. All right. I'm going to wrap it up soon. But like I said, the nib is finally working and I got my rhythm. Sometimes as an artist, when you find that sweet spot, you don't really want to stop, or you shouldn't, because sometimes it can take hours to find it. Sometimes, like I'll work all day on a project, and then I'm like right before bed, I'm like, oh, I'm finally in the groove. So then you stay up an extra hour or two to write out the groove. The groove. Yeah, so somebody asked early on about the pencil duties. The majority, actually almost all of the book is still penciled by myself and inked by me. So I believe that Render is going to help out on about 15 to 19 pages. So that'll give you kind of a breakdown on how it's going to work. And I've done finishes a lot in my career. So as long as Render gets the style relatively close, then I can put it on model when I ink it, which is what I'm doing now. But I really appreciate just the help, that he's bringing, because I do want to get this book, and I will get this book done before the deadline that's in the on the Indiegogo page, because I do realize that we need to try to get these books done quicker and into your hands. It's kind of like the image year. Like the first year was kind of inventing and trying to figure out how to set up this structure on how to conduct business and things. And then the next year is how to, kind of do it faster and get product done quicker. That type of thing, because a lot of what I'm doing right now is outside of my wheelhouse. Like I've actually had no experience at doing a lot of the stuff that I'm doing right now. So it does take a little bit more time, and also just to, to try to create outside the box, sketchbooks full of failed attempts at trying to get what you want. Looking for, oh my gosh, I don't want to stop. Look at that. The nib is moving. Look at that. This is also when you find that sweet spot, you can work faster. Well, I'm going to go to the chat, see how you guys are doing, and then sign off. Oh, no, I don't want to stop. But I'm starving. I know my wife is too. So I'll hold this up a little closer so you guys can see some of the line weight and the movement of what I've been doing. So there's a lot of kind of fluid movement and like little bloops and things just in the outlining themselves. I've always liked the outline parts. I like to render as well, but I'm kind of methodical where I like to structure everything up, stay in that mode, and then when I get into hatch mode, then I can kind of keep it consistent, and the flow comes that way. Oh, we have Draken. He's in the chat. We have Shinto. I'm starting to start figuring out you guys and become familiar with seeing your names in the chat and stuff. So it's like seeing a good friend. Yeah, you guys are great. Yeah, it's very random humor and it just comes out of nowhere. Yeah, I like that kind of humor. Oh, I should have highlighted that. So Chrono Mechanics is a comedy. Oh yeah, it's a pretty broad humor book. But I want to stress, because I've been asked this, like, is it an all ages book and stuff like that? And it is, and it isn't. So the best way, like, there's a quick pitch on the Indiegogo page that says it's H.G. Wells meets the Looney Tunes. And when I say Looney Tunes, it sounds like, oh, it's kid friendly, and that's part of what I'm trying to say. But also that it's comedy, but it has like dual meaning to it. So like take Tex Avery cartoons and the Looney Tune cartoons could have like these jokes where there's like a lot of sexual innuendo and things like that go right over little kids' heads. But like if you're an adult and you're watching it, then you're like, oh my gosh, that's a penis or whatever, you're like, oh my gosh, the wolf is, just a sexual predator kind of thing, and his eyes are popping out, and different things that are kind of like metaphors for erections and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of like adult, innuendo and things in Looney Tunes, and there is in Chrono as well. But if you're a kid and you're reading it, you're not going to really get it. So you can, as a kid, you can read it and just enjoy the adventure, because there's silly, broad stuff that happens, and it's a fun action sci-fi adventure that has jokes and jokes that kids will get. But if you're an adult, you can read it, and there's going to be stuff there that will be specifically for you. So it can be more adult. I guess kind of the way you could watch Futurama with your kid, or you could watch The Simpsons with your kid. It depends on, the age of your kid and the sensibility of your kids, but, you can enjoy them together. So Chrono Mechanics is kind of that. So I don't, a Babel fish. You guys are really on the whole, oh gosh. Hitchhiker's Guide. I'm sorry. I was thinking of the Galaxy, whatever, and everything. The Edge of the. What is the other book? I can't remember it right now. I think I got hunger. I got hunger brain farts. Okay, we got Durakin in. Oh, we got Charles London in. Hey, how you doing, brother? Good. It's nearly 10 p.m. here in the UK. Well, welcome to the chat, my friend. Oh, the Wolf. How are you, man? How are you, brother? Oh, we weren't able to do a Pontificators. I went out with the family Friday, and I believe we're not going to be able to do a Pontificators this Friday as well. I have to double check my schedule, but I believe I'm going to be in New York. So there's the Suffolk Comic-Con that I am going to be flying up to. and hanging out with my friend Norm Ratman and a bunch of other people. And my daughter's going too, and she's got a bunch of artwork that she put together just for this con. Some cool watercolor art of like Spider-Man, Harley Quinn, and different things. They're really, really cool, and it's high-end stuff, so it's going to be a little expensive. So bring your, go to the bank first, bring some money. So where is art? Oh, where is black and white? I'm not sure what that means. So if you're asking for an update for black and white, I can give you an update, Nick. So as far as black and white is concerned, everything here at Hack Shack is done. So all the stretch goals have either been made or printed. The ash cans are done, bagged, printed. All the labels are printed out. We have all the boxes, the Gemini boxes. They're all downstairs, and they're all ready to go. What else is there? Yeah, and the book is completely done and has been done for months. The book has been done for months, and it's been at the printer. So the book is at the printer, and we're just waiting to get it back from the printer. So, here, I'll put a link for Chrono in here for you guys as well. Thank you for reminding me. So here is the Chrono link. So yes, thank you, Nick. So yeah, black and white is we're weeks away from getting it in-house here. So it will go out as soon as we get it. So thanks to everybody for their patience on that. I do really appreciate it. Okay. Well, we got some people here. We got Brad Noble. How are you, Brad? And we got, let's see if I can say this without messing up his name. So it's Chris Arnacki. Chris Arnacki. Sweet lion weights. Yeah, thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Glad I caught the stream. Very inspiring. Got to click on him first, Art. Well, thank you. We're 85% funded. So thanks, you guys. Let me see. I can share with you the link. Let me see if I can do this real quick and see if we went up. So Shinto says we're 85% funded. Oh, yeah, Andrew J. Are you from that? Yeah, the Suffolk Comic Art Expo. Oh, cool. Andrew J is going to be there. Yeah, very cool. I'm robbing a bank, so I'll be ready. Yeah, I'm bringing a lot of prints and a lot of originals. I have like all these portfolios filled with artwork, but I don't like to fly with it because sometimes they make me check it in. It's in a small suitcase that I can put overhead. And it's really, really heavy, so I have to act like it's not heavy, like I'm not bringing, a ton of bricks. But sometimes I can't fly with a lot of artwork. So I'm going to try to pack as much original artwork as I can humanly transport to the other side of the U.S. So that's the plan. So, yeah, if anybody's going to that show, I don't get to the East Coast a lot. So this is going to be one of those rare things. So if you want original artwork, yeah, bring some cashola. So we have Mikey Woods. Hey, how are you doing, brother? This book is going to be amazing. Yeah, thank you, because I keep telling myself that, and it's good to hear it from other people. So here's the link, you guys. It's in the chat, and I'll change it out as soon as I sign off to you guys, because I think the one in the description is wrong, you guys have said. So, here we go. When I get my hands on black and white, then I will think about backing Chrono Mechanics. Totally fair, Nick. Totally fair, man. And the plan was that there was always going to be a little bit of overlap, but the plan was that we were going to be in fulfillment maybe 2 to 3 weeks into the Chrono Mechanics campaign, and that I was going to stay, transparent with you guys and let you know exactly what's happening with black and white. So, I'm trying the best I can to keep, the integrity up and to let you know what's happening, because I know it has been a long time, and I really do appreciate you guys staying in the game and backing me on Black and White, and even giving me a consideration like you're doing, Nick, is greatly appreciated. And I will make good on it. You will get your book, your Black and White book, and you will enjoy it. So thank you so much, Nick. I will prove myself to you. Yes. Excellent. It's worth the catch up on the Revival series. Yeah, and I think we sold some on the campaign too, the Black and White campaign. So yeah, the reason they're good prices is because the print run, we sold a ton of books. Like this was in the 90s when books were selling, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of copies. So there's a lot of Black and White, the original miniseries out there. So very cool. Looking forward to Black and White. And I'm not sure why Shinto's laughing. He's probably laughing because I was kind of boxed in the corner there for a minute. He likes to see me sweat. So very good, you guys. So I'm going to go screen share, see if I can do this, and take you to the Chrono site and see what we have there. So it would be nice if you guys backed. And if you're thinking of backing, do so right now, because then it'll look good on this stream. Okay, so click here, and then come over here. And I believe you should be seeing the Chrono Mechanics site right now. So I'm not going to spend too much time going over it, but, Chrono Mechanics, they do more before the dawn of time. Or they do more before the dawn of time than most people do all day. I'm going a little too quickly. So we're at 6/8/12. Like the chat said, we're 85% funded. We have 82 backers. Thank you guys so much. And please check this out when you get some time later today. And I do believe everything you need to know is here. So we have the rundown on what the book's going to be, a little introduction of who I am, and then the concept of Chrono Mechanics. And then we have some great artwork up here. This is the cover, colored by the great Sean Ellery, who does a lot of my Chrono Mechanics high-profile stuff. He's brilliant. He spends so much time on these pieces, he just can't really do interiors. So I'm lucky just to get this cover out of him, quite frankly. The guy's always so busy. So then we have the interior artwork here. So this is the first page of the book. This is a little bit down the line. This is Doug coming into the story and being introduced to the bigger world of time travel and time repair. So this is Oot. We introduce Zin here, and then our heroes, or our team, is basically saying, hey, Doug, you're the new recruit. Power up and let's get to work. And then Doug's like, hey, man, I don't do manual labor. I'm a rock star. So that's kind of the story pages there. We have a sketchbook, which I'm really excited about getting into your hands. It's going to be kind of widescreen, so it's wide. It's not. It's what is that? Oh my gosh, it's horizontal. It's horizontal and not vertical. Like most comics are vertical, this is horizontal. So you read it kind of like a centerfold, like you're opening it up like a centerfold. And I know your brains go to dirty places when you hear centerfold, but there's other places that magazine stuff use centerfolds as well. So it's going to be basically narrated by the elucidator. So he's going to elucidate you on the history and the facts behind the developmental work that I've done for Chrono Mechanics. So then we have 4 variant covers. We have Oot by Sean Galloway. We have Doug by the great Tom Bancroft. We have Zin by Aaron Lopresti. I'm probably moving too fast. And we have Caravaggio by Carlo Barbieri. And so then we have a poster package, because I thought it would be a shame to not have these things bigger so you can see them. So we have the 4 mini prints, and we have 2. These are oversized poster prints, the Doug and the Time to Panic. So those are it says it in the description. I don't remember off the top of my head, but they're bigger than 11 by 17. And those are going to come in a rolled up tube. So they'll be very well protected. So then we have the stretch goals here. We have a button. These buttons are pretty cool. This is my favorite physical tier, is the Lucky Pick. And when you read the story, you'll realize how important the Lucky Pick is to the story and to Doug as a character. And so then we have, I want to go from a 48 page to a 60 page. So we have stretch goals to get us there. So we have 28K for six added pages. We have 30 for perfect binding, which is basically a graphic novel format, square bound. And then we have 33K for the last 6 pages. So that's 12 total, which will bring the 48 to 60 pages. And then we have enhanced cover stock. And then we have the Biggie Alert, which is foil enhancements, which I'm not going to bore you with now, but they're going to be very, very cool. And then we have the golden time card, which if you're a lucky few that get a golden time card, you can get a free doodle of Doug if you turn in your time card. But you have to fill out the time card. So you have to fill it out and then send it. And these time cards will be 1 out of every 10 backers will get one of these time cards. They'll be put into the comics. So when you open your comic book, there might be a golden time card there. And so if you fill it out and then send it to us, I will do a doodle for you and then send it along to you. And so then, yeah, so we have the final parting shot. And so please come check out the tiers. We have all kinds of cool tiers and excitement here for your dining and dancing pleasure. So very, very cool. So I'm going to go back now and watch the video too. The video is put together by a new friend, man. He's turned into a great partner in this whole Chrono Mechanics venture, and his name is Klaus von Klaus, and he's got an excellent book called MD, Monster MD. I'm going backwards. I'm going everything in reverse here. MD Monster and Klaus Von. So yeah, so very cool. Let me stop sharing. I'll go back to the stream, see what you guys are saying. So give us a great centerfold art. Yeah, I will. I will give you a great centerfold. So very cool. Thank you guys for hanging with me and watching me put this book together. I am going to do a lot of these live streams where I'm inking and doing different things to show you that this book is coming together, and it is coming together really, really quickly, you guys. I'm very proud of the way this thing is looking and the speed. Oh, you know what I didn't do? Oh my gosh, I didn't. Let's go back. Let's go back because I think we got some people, I hope, because now it'll make me look like a dummy. I think we got some orders for the books here. So 812. Yes, we did. Thank you guys. So now we're at 844. So we sold a book or so or two here. So thank you guys. So we went out with a boom, a bang. So we went out with a few backers there. So thanks again. Let me go back so I can check out. So thanks again, you guys. Enjoy your Sunday, and go check out some Chrono fun. Take care.